Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay, how is everyone? Thanks for being patient. I just got back in town and I want to talk about Karen Read and what has been a narrative, may come into trial even. So discussed. It was the motive in this case, jealousy. Seems to be a fire truck behind me. Hold on. I don't know if you guys can hear that. It's blasting. Woo! Hello, Freak Aaron Reed. Freak Aaron Reed. Hello, Maestro. Hello, Kat. Hello, Brooke. Hello, Taterbug. Hello, Bunny Buchanan. Hello, Claudia. Hello, Brooke. Hello, True Crime Dublin. It's been such a narrative that really Karen Read was so jealous. We saw it a little bit in the first trial with the Aruba trip. Hank Brennan is not going to bring in Aruba this time around, where Karen Read just yelled F you at a woman she had just met. I mean, something. It's something. The Sullivan sisters are not coming in. Let's see. Or the whole Aruba trip. And I thought, oh, great. But it looks from the hearing like this narrative is continuing. And anytime you see a narrative, this is my view of the case. Anytime you see a narrative that Karen Read herself is pushing, I was so drunk, I just forget things. And she wants to use a narrative. I think alcohol may have lowered her inhibitions and made it a tad more easy for her to do this. But I don't think alcohol was really the key factor. I know other people see it like that. You have to remember that John O'Keefe had tried to remove Karen Read from his home 2 weeks before this, and she had refused to leave. Can you imagine that? Let's just all take that in for a minute. Can we all take that in for a minute? When you own a home, pack your stuff and go. No, I'm not. And as a police officer, what are you supposed to do? Call your fellow police officers and have him remove Karen Read from the house? And I don't know about what Massachusetts laws are. But I know in New York, you hear these horror stories about squatters or people you invite to stay who refuse to leave, and you have to go through this very long legal process to kick them out. Did Karen Read know about that? Well, I invited them for a week, and now they're my new roommate who's freeloading in the guest room. Have you heard these horror stories about people you invite in your home? How hard it is to remove them? So what is he going to do? I don't want her here anymore. I own the home. She won't leave. Police officers, can you remove her? What are they going to carry her out like in civil disobedience? What do you do? And it speaks so much to Karen Read's makeup personality makeup. You don't tell me when I'm going to leave. I leave when I'm good and done. And I believe they had been fighting on the day of January 28th, 2022. They had been fighting all day. I've gone over their text messages in detail. I'm sorry that the first jury didn't see a great wealth of text messages because they tell such a story. They paint such a picture of a relationship really crumbling. And when Karen Reed asked John O'Keefe, well, just tell me if you're not into this anymore. Are you seeing someone else? Apparently what's coming in this time is Karen Reed. It's not just Brian Higgins. There were other men that Karen Reed was pursuing, if not involved with. So let's see how that goes. I haven't seen the basis of that yet, but that's the story. That there are more than Brian Higgins is coming in the second trial. So she's, of course, as Karen Reed's. So when people say she was so desperate to keep him, I don't believe that's it. It's just that this is the way Karen Reed operates. She accuses everyone of doing the things she herself are doing. This is her legal team does similarly. When they are trying to hide discovery and ambush the prosecution at trial, they start accusing the Commonwealth of trial by ambush. We saw Robert Alessi. The final hearing is this Tuesday, I believe at 10 or 11. I will be streaming it. So check that out for my trial, on my channel. I think it should be, these hearings just get more heated and more heated and more dramatic every time they go. I mean, it's bizarre. But back to Karen Reed. So she likes to accuse people of doing the things, especially John O'Keefe, that she herself was doing. But have we seen her, was she so outraged when Jennifer McCabe brought up Bella's mom, Ashley, as she was giving directions to 34 Fairview? Is it safe to assume that Karen Reed even heard? Was he playing Jen McCabe on speakerphone? Is it wise to assume that Karen Reed heard Jen McCabe say Bella's mom's house or Ashley's house, or that this has certainly been something that looks like Hank Brennan, Karen Reed has brought it up in the Vanity Fair article. And Hank Brennan seems to be jumping on it. Innocence Fraud Watch had a great blog about it. Let's get into it. And we're going to look at some videos too. And let me catch up with some super chats before. Lackadaisical gifted 10, count them, 10. Very generous memberships. Thank you. They will be passed out at random in the chat. It seems to me that Karen was jealous of Jen McCabe. Interesting artworks. I'm not sure. That's a theory to chew on. There has to be a reason why she picked Jennifer McCabe and Carrie Roberts to be her proxies, to be her mix it all up, people to put in the mix, to make confusion that morning. Have Jen McCabe call 911. She always puts someone in between herself and her crime, whether it's Aidan Carney and her witness harassment, or she even had a go-between between Aidan Carney and herself for a while. Natalie Bernschneider-Wawicki, she had in the middle there. the way she did this crime is very much like a crime by proxy, where she'd have plausible deniability that it was an accident. What was in my car? I didn't know I hit him. I didn't get out and check. She couldn't quite pull it off, but had she done this another way, she could have maybe played this off as an accident. And I explained last time, and I guess it deserves explaining one more time, as to why she is not just being charged with some kind of accident, why she has a second-degree murder charge, is because Karen Reed, and this is why I don't believe she was that drunk and didn't know what she did or didn't remember. Karen Reed knew that morning of the 29th that something was terribly wrong with John O'Keefe. She even told people Kerry Roberts that he was dead. How did she know? Now, if you have a fight with your boyfriend and you leave him at his friend's house and you go home, and in this case, she went to his house, not to her own home. She snuck into his house like a burglar and plotted how she was going to get out of this. That's my feeling, for hours and hours. But if it's just an accident, or if you don't know what you've done, if you have no idea that you've hit him, when he doesn't come home that night, do you start waking up his niece at 4:30 in the morning, telling people he got hit by a plow, knowing that's not a common way to go? Wouldn't you assume that he slept over on a friend's house, having no vehicle? I guess maybe his friend didn't want to drive him in the nor'easter. And then you have Karen Reed's amazing psychic detection of John O'Keefe in the snow. I wish I had the quote. It's like, I saw him like a buffalo on a prairie. She's like, he stood out covered in snow in the dark corner of the Alberts lawn. Like, I think she says something to the effect of like a buffalo on a prairie. John O'Keefe's body didn't appear to anyone else who was looking for him, except Karen Reed, who knew right where to find him. She never gets out and checks her back smashed to smithereens taillight, back right taillight. Why not? All these things show that she meant to do it. She never hits the brake when her infotainment system is beeping and flashing at her that she's going to hit something. She pays it no mind. And after she hits something, where she feels she hit something, meaning once you hit something with your vehicle, it moves all through your body. She doesn't step out and look. Why not? You know, I know that it's very common argument. I think this is something that we're really brainwashing young people to believe, that everyone reacts differently. No, they don't. Human behavior is amazingly consistent within a spectrum. But have someone hit something with their car going 24 miles an hour in reverse with their foot 75% down on the gas pedal, like Karen Reed had shortly at, half of midnight on the 29th of January, on January 29th, 2002, which they believe, the Commonwealth believes she hit him between 12:30 and 12:32. And take 10 people who hit something in that same scenario, I would say everyone would get out of their car and see what they hit. unless they're trying to do a hit and run, and that's its own crime, get away with a crime, and that's what Karen did. She hit and ran. So proving consciousness of guilt is fascinating. Let's pull up, before I go on any further, Eva says, and Higgins was at 34 Fairview. Yeah, I've heard this and Higgins thing. Like she would be so annoyed that Higgins was there or embarrassed. Karen Reed. I mean, has everyone picked up on Karen Reed's personality? She's not easily embarrassed or intimidated, or she doesn't feel shame. I know Jennifer Coffindaffer has brought this up, that Higgins was there and that's what made her so angry and she didn't want to come in. I just think they were fighting all that day, because there's a less than 5-minute walk between C.F. McCarthy's and the Waterfall bar, and it took them 17 minutes. John O'Keefe and Karen Reed, it took them 17 minutes to walk in between those two bars. I believe they were fighting in private in a way that make their friends think everything was okay. But in private, they were having at each other. Read those text messages. And the last thing that ticked John O'Keefe off was Karen Reed not coming out because she had a plumber over, Richie the plumber over. He says, you're having a plumber over at 8:00 at night? When Pop and I would have fixed it on Monday for nothing? What? And she's like, oh, it's okay. Just lives down the road. He went to Home Depot. She's alone with a plumber 7-8 o'clock at night on a Friday night. That's why she's delayed getting there. And John O'Keefe, we know John O'Keefe told Michael Camerano he was upset that Karen didn't ask him to fix her hot water issues, which seemingly never got fixed. When did she call this Richie the plumber back? When did he ever return? Curious if the Commonwealth is going to bring that up. But I don't think she would have any shame that Higgins was in the home, or Higgins in front of John O'Keefe, or she has no shame, feel badly or feel embarrassed or didn't want to go. No. Let us not forget that when she kissed him was at a party that John O'Keefe was there, so she doesn't have shame. So I don't know about that theory. I'm not buying it. But if you can convince me, if you have a good argument for it, I'm all ears to listen. Maybe there's an angle I'm missing. All right, here we go. I thought this was just an excellent blog. If you haven't subscribed to Innocence Fraud Watch, please do. It's such a treasure trove, this blog, of fantastic, detailed, accurate information. Killer Karen Reed retrial. I mean, there's really not a day when I'm doing the Karen Reed case that I don't go on Innocence Fraud Watch and pull up the incredible timeline on here. You can also toss them a couple bucks on their Buy Me a Coffee for all their hard work. Some context and constructive criticism for John DePietro on his Ashley's House statement theory, including Alan Jackson's Freudian slip and Kate Peter, a.k.a. Masshole Mafia. On March 21st, 2025, so that's Friday, John DePietro made the following post on X. Context on the back and forth yesterday between Alan Jackson and Hank Brennan regarding Ashley's House and the interview Karen Reid did with Gretchen Voss. Karen said Ashley's house in the interview. On the stand, Jen McCabe testified that she said Bella's house. Bella is the daughter of Ashley. This is the phone call around 12:20 of Jen McCabe giving directions to John for 34 Fairview. Notice, although Jen said Bella, Karen hears it as Ashley and tells Voss Ashley. This explains the bizarre voicemail Karen left John accusing him of being with someone else. This may have triggered her rage, resulting in her backing into John. So, when she has these rage, I don't even believe Karen is that jealous. This is all a form of control. So get the finger pointed off of yourself and onto the other person. You're the one having affairs. You're sleeping with other women. That's all what she was doing. It's a way of reasserting her power. And I believe that this was she coercively controlled, i.e. abused John O'Keefe. And this was her final discard, is to hit him and then accuse him of a lot of things. So that should she be found out, or should his body be found, he was doing all these bad things. I may have hit him if that ever got found out, but he was really doing all these bad things. Start suspicion. Or if he was in good enough shape to call her back, he would already be on the defensive. It's a distraction technique, and it's also but more than that, it's a technique to gain control over another human being so that you never have to talk about your own behavior. Your own behavior is never discussed because you're too busy casting aspersions on the other person's behavior. Bella's mom, Ashley. Ashley is the mom of Bella, a close friend of John O'Keefe's niece. John had referred to Bella in a comical video. Do you guys remember this video? Let me pull it. Oh, I can't make these all that much bigger. Let me make sure it's in. Yeah, it's in view.
Yeah, you're going to do anything today?
Maybe a little later.
So he's playing his niece in this video. It's really sweet. So he's play acting at his niece. Let me go back so you can see it from the beginning. And she's filming it. And his
Hey, you're
niece
going
is
to do
filming
anything
it.
today?
Maybe a little later. I only have 14 more episodes of Vampire Diaries left.
Kaylee, what are you going to do later? Kaylee.
What? Can Bella come over?
Doesn't make you sad. I don't know what does.
Hey y'all.
I mean,
If
so
you were looking for the
how do I turn this off? Okay, here. Hopefully that'll stay off. Bella's mom, Ashley, had apparently dated John O'Keefe at some point prior to dating Karen Reid. So Bella's mom, Ashley, dated John O'Keefe. So the idea is that Karen Reid heard Bella's house and thought Ashley's house, meaning her mom's house, that bitch, I'm going to go into a jealous rage. I'm just not buying it. Anyone else not buying it? Ashley had also attended Karen Reid June 10th, 2022 arraignment in Norfolk Superior Court, Denton, following Karen's arrest the previous day for her murder of John O'Keefe. So there's Ashley. Black top, sat next to Jennifer McCabe. So she's behind the woman in the heart glasses. During Karen Reid's June 10th, 2000 arraignment, in Norfolk Superior Court, Denham, Mass. Jen McCabe referred to Bella's mom's house on the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022. The around 12:20 call, which John DePietro referred to in his Twitter or tweet or X post, was time-stamped at 12:18:36 p.m., which was made by John O'Keefe to Jennifer McCabe. After leaving the Waterfall Bar and Grill with Karen Reed and having only minutes before he got into Karen's SUV on Washington Street, John O'Keefe had phoned Jennifer McCabe back for directions to 34 Fairview. In his post on X, John DePietro states, "This explains the bizarre voicemail Karen left John, accusing him of being with someone else. This may have triggered her rage, resulting in her backing into John." Did Karen Reed overhear Jennifer McCabe? The problem with John DePietro's theory, and it's not just his theory, this has been a theory that has been bantered around most recently by Hank Brennan, is that there is no evidence to show Karen Reed had overheard what Jennifer McCabe has said to John O'Keefe about Bella's mom's house. Jennifer McCabe testified in 2024 that she had spoken to John O'Keefe via loudspeaker in her car, and her husband, Matthew McCabe, who was a passenger, had testified that he had overheard John O'Keefe on the car speaker. But there's no evidence to prove Karen Reed had actually overheard Jennifer McCabe talking to John O'Keefe at around 12:18:30 and 36 seconds a.m. about Bella's mom's house. So it's making a huge leap from saying that because Jen McCabe had John O'Keefe on speakerphone, that John O'Keefe had them on speakerphone in the car. And why would John O'Keefe search for 34 Fairview at 12:20:08 via the Waze app if he had registered what the McCabes had said about Bella's mom's house? Has anyone ever gotten directions? This is also a good point. I don't know I think this is what Innocence Fraud Watch means by putting it in, that he wasn't registering Bella's mom's house. He just wanted to get there, and they put it right. If he knew, he was like, if it's 3 houses down or it's right near Bella's mom's house, he would be like, okay, I got it. Karen, go this way, take a left, take a right, whatever. Instead, he puts it into the Waze app. Controlling the narrative, Vanity Fair ruse, and the tailored story. On October 29th, Vanity Fair published a story by innocence fraudster and gaslighter Julie Miller. Do you remember when I highlighted Julie Miller's background? Every single thing she writes, the killer is the hero or the heroine of the story, and the victims are nowhere. Headed, Karen Reed tells her story, a murder trial in Massachusetts. Julie Miller stated, when he and Reeve arrived at 34 Fairview, though she wondered whether they were at the right address. There weren't many cars in the driveway, and Reed felt uneasy. McCabe had conveyed the invitation, so Reed wasn't sure how welcome the couple actually were. This is such nonsense that Karen Reed started this, I'm not sure I'm welcome. This is something that I pointed out last time. Let me see if I can pull it up quickly. Someone did a great little clip of it for Twitter. Hold on one second. But you remember the part where she's like, the house didn't look inviting? The house didn't look inviting. It's midnight on almost half after midnight. What do you expect the house to look like? My point was, here we go. Karen Reed also says that when she pulls up to 34 Fairview, the house didn't look inviting. Now, what did she expect? Did she expect a full balloons on there and streamers, welcome Karen? I mean, what is an inviting house so late at night? What does she expect the house to look like? Did she expect fireworks that spelled welcome Karen in the sky? Karen Reed also said, so right. So is that what an inviting house looks like? Welcome Karen. We have a balloon arch that spells out welcome Karen. Did she expect the Wizard of Oz? We welcome you to Munchkin Town with like presentations. You know, what did she expect? What is a house? So Karen Reed herself started this narrative that she wasn't invited, when my memory of Jen McCabe testifying is Jennifer McCabe grabbed her by the arm and said, "You're coming with me, girl," like in the most friendly way. How would you think after that you weren't invited? But she's like, well, I didn't know, because she has to think of something as to why she left him there, why she didn't want to go in. And so she thought, well, maybe if I said that, I wasn't sure I was invited. It's not that we were fighting all night and all day and all night. And I believe John O'Keefe was like, I'm done. I'm done. Take your car and go. And it makes so much sense. Isn't that so Karen? After John O'Keefe, to not only hit him, but to go into his own home, to break into his own home, uninvited again. Karen Reed has no problem going where she's uninvited. There weren't many, speaking of, Aidan Carney's hearing. Does anybody want to watch that again? Where her and her horde of lawyers, and I know it was her case, but my point was she had no standing in that case. And she certainly had no right to break in late with no apology and to not give proper notice that she was going to be there with her lawyers who wanted to speak. Now, Alan Jackson said he gave it to Judge Cannoti at sidebar. Isn't that convenient? And the judge took him at his word. Dangerous thing to do, as Maestro pointed out. Take Alan Jackson at his word that he gave Judge Cannoti notice that he would be there. But boy, this narrative, like I wasn't invited. I just went home because I wasn't invited. I didn't want to. What, me, rude Karen Reed? Everybody get it? What I'm saying? Am I losing people? Am I making sense? Is everybody getting it? From Jen McCabe's testimony, it sounded like no one could confuse the fact that they all wanted her there. Okay. Continuing on, and then I might take a little break. There weren't many cars in that when here we go again. This is the uninviting house narrative. When he and Reed arrived at 34 Fairview, this is from Vanity Fair, she wondered whether they were at the right address. There weren't many cars in the driveway. This wasn't a party. This was a little get together after the bars closed. And Reed felt uneasy. This is storytelling. McCabe had conveyed the invitation, so Reed wasn't really sure how welcome the couple actually were. O'Keefe said he'd check out the scene and report back, but minutes passed without word. I got pissed. Reed tells me now. She knew that a woman O'Keefe used to hook up with lived a few houses down from down the street. He's got to be screwing around, I thought. Oh, the melodrama. Oh, he's screwing around, hand to forehead. I don't think he was physically incapacitated. I didn't think he was physically incapacitated. She knew that makes me think she knew he was physically incapacitated and left him to die there. In about 10 minutes of waiting, Reed drove to O'Keefe's house to be with Kaylee, who was home. This whole thing about being with Kaylee, she had no contact with Kaylee until she shook her at 4:30 to wake her up and left the room, and then came back demanding that she call Jennifer McCabe. Reeve drove to O'Keefe's house to be with Kaylee, who was home. I think it was a little before 4:30 that she shook Kaylee. To Reed, it felt like Aruba was all over again, so recent. She sent O'Keefe a barrage of angry voicemails and texts. John, I'm going home. You are effing using me right now. You're effing another girl. Kaylee is sleeping next to me. John, I effing hate you. She said she didn't sleep that night. And she said that when she said she did, she said she slept that night on the couch. Excuse me. I'm the one who believes she didn't sleep that night. But nothing about Kaylee sleeping next to her. If she was sleeping next to Kaylee was sleeping next to her, she could have just turned over and shook her. But that's not the case. She shook her and ran out of the room. Julie Miller chose to omit Karen Reed's 1:02 and 0 seconds a.m. and 1:04 and 14 seconds text message to John O'Keefe in which he stated, "Your kids are cocking alone and I'm going back to Mansfield. The kids are home alone." By the time Karen Reed had spoken to Julie Miller in 2024, Karen had tailored her story based on the discovery material she had in her possession from the Commonwealth, the statements and testimony of witnesses like Jennifer and Matthew McCabe, along with other gossip and innuendo she had garnered from other sources up to that point. For example, paragraph 3 of Trooper Kathleen Prince's February 1st, 2022 summary report here reads, "At the end of the evening, Jen said that she and her husband were planning to go to her sister's house because it was her nephew, Brian Albert Jr.'s birthday. Jen said that she asked Karen and John if they wanted to come along, and they said they would. The Alberts live at 34 Fairview Road. Jen said that John had texted her at 12:14 a.m. to get the address. Jen said that she'd spoken with John on the phone to explain where the house is. She said that she remembers providing him with directions, specifically telling him to drive past Bella's house on the right. Jen said that John would know where Bella lives as she is a friend of Kaylee." Karen Reed also used material from the contents of Aidan Turtleboy Carney's published blogs, like, for example, his May 2023 Canton Cover Up Part 41 blog and his December 2024 Canton Cover Up Part 254 blog, in which he refers to the woman O'Keefe used to hook up with who lived a few houses down the street from 34 Fairview. It's likely Karen Reed was the source for some of Aidan Carney's blog content and the tone of his content. Jealous Woman, which spurned the fight theory by Kate Peter, has also put this out there. Karen Reed has also tailored her story based on statements made by people like Kate Peter, aka Masshole Mafia, on May 17, 2024, which was day 14 of Karen Reed's trial, and the day Jennifer McCabe testified. Kevin Lenahan, aka Yellow Cottage Tales, Kate Peter, and Jennifer Coffindaffer spoke about this Bella's mom thing during a YouTube live. Kate stated in part, because I've spoken to a lot of these key witnesses. Actually, let's just listen to the clip.
Not that I think that they're lying, but just to see if there are any inconsistencies, if they say something. And everything has been so consistent with what I've heard for a year. And if you go back on my streams, it's the same stuff that I've been saying for an entire year, particularly where they're honing in on this Bella's mom thing. It ties back into Aruba, and I think that hopefully Lally will be able to tie that up pretty neatly. Karen was a very jealous woman, and she was very irrational when she was jealous, even when other people were watching. And so the theory, I guess, is that what spurned the fight was that he was going to a place that was in proximity of an ex, and an ex that Karen, by most reports, was acutely jealous of, particularly jealous of, because Bella's mom was a little bit younger than her. Bella's mom was arguably a little bit more attractive than her. So just these little details, after hearing things for so long, not under oath, right, just in conversation or whatever, you watch them up on the stand, nothing's changed. Nothing has changed at all.
I wish we could have had a camera on Karen's face when they mentioned dating Bella's mom.
Yeah, that and the ex-girlfriend Amy, that was really John's other significant relationship, and by all accounts sort of the love is the one that got away, right? Visceral reactions from Karen.
And whatever.
I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I just see when she uses these narratives, there's always a reason. I would think, which is to push blame on others and create and mix it all up, confuse people, create false narratives. Because that's a much better narrative. I was so jealous. Then I did this on purpose, and John O'Keefe dumped me, and I lost control. Said he had enough. It was over. And I clipped him with my large SUV to teach him a lesson. Now, those are all narratives that she's put out while talking about the conspiracy. To think that this wasn't planned would be a mistake. The aim was to teach John O'Keefe a lesson. At minimum, that's Karen Reed's own words, or to think there's 0% chance this was an accident. I think she had been fantasizing about doing something like this. When you date a man who doesn't wear a coat for 2 years, never wears a coat, in the cold New England winters, and a nor'easter is coming, and you drop him off, and your inhibitions are lowered. However, that may have nothing to do with it. It may have a tiny little bit to do with it. By alcohol. And you want to exert your power by causing pain, teaching him a lesson, showing him your power. She left him there to die. She knew she had to be thinking, looking at him for 2 years, not wearing a coat, that if he ever got incapacitated in the cold, it could cause serious injury or death. That is just rational. I mean, nothing about killing someone is rational, but that is if you're Karen Reed and you're someone who is very much into exerting their power and winning and might makes right kind of control, has exact control over people. Every relationship is about power and control and manipulating. You have to think she doesn't miss that, her psychopathic mind, that his habit of not wearing a coat could be really useful if she wanted to do some serious damage to John O'Keefe and or kill him. In turn, many people, and for those who've said that, well, Karen Reed's too smart, she wouldn't give up her whole career and her whole life to go to prison for killing John O'Keefe, these psychopaths never think that they are going to go to prison. They always think they're going to get away with it. They think they're smarter, better, and look at how many people she brought into this case. If you're really worried about where your boyfriend is, why not knock on the door of 34 Fairview where you left him last? Why is she involving Kaylee's niece? I mean, at minimum, hey, can you come over? Kaylee's niece. I mean, why is she involving Kaylee, John's niece? Excuse me, Kaylee's niece. John's niece. Why is she involving Jen McCabe? Why is she involving Carrie Roberts? Why is she involving Catherine Camerano? Why is she involving her parents? And why is it so immediately, she's ramped up to the max at 4:30 in the morning in absolute panic and certain he's dead? That is not rational reaction. She knew because she remembered what she did. She had full memory of everything that happened that night. I do not believe she was in a blackout. I don't believe it was an accident. I think she knew what she did. And she immediately went to his home to regroup and plot as to how she was going to get away with it. And one of the things that people who like to get away with things do is throw in a lot of people into the mix. So you'll have a lot of fingers to point at. Oh no, they misheard, and also make a lot of confusion. And this is also why Innocence Fraud Watch's timeline is such a gem to have, because Karen Reed succeeded. This is not a simple case. It's a complicated case with a lot of moving parts and personalities. Confusing timelines. In turn, many people have chosen to repeat and run them with this fabricated narrative, while in reality, the reason why Karen Reed chose to run John O'Keefe down was more likely had nothing to do with being a jealous woman and everything to do with power and control. Domestic abuse, also called domestic DV or intimate partner violence, can be defined as a pattern of behavior in any relationship that is used to gain or maintain power and control over an intimate partner. Abuse can be physical, sexual, emotional, economic, or psychological, and actions or threats of actions that influence another person. This includes any behavior that frightens, intimidates, terrorizes, manipulates, hurts, humiliates, blames. John, I know you're sleeping with someone else. John. That's my Karen Reed voice. John, you're perfect. Blame. That is Karen Reed's MO. Blame. Injure or wound someone. Domestic abuse can happen to anyone of any race, age, orientation, religion, or biological sex. It can occur within a range of relationships, including couples who are married, living together, or dating. Domestic violence affects people of all socioeconomic backgrounds. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break. When we get back on lackadaisical. Hey, Karen, you are a Karen. I've heard that a lot. She's the ultimate Karen, lackadaisical. When I get back, Hank Brennan brings in the Bella mom, Ashley's story into court. Was he wrong? Don't go anywhere. I will be back in 1 minute.
Yeah. Roberta in the truth zone, mic hitting raw. Spotlight shining, she exposing the flaw. Debunking the myth, breaking their facade. This is Glass City, respect the squad. On these NYC blocks where the skyline flex big. Roberta Glass slicing lies with a truth rig. Innocence frosters, your stories unravel. She's a map through the madness of gritty gravel. Glass don't bend and facts don't break. She's a storm that's called, you feel the quake. Exposing tales stitched with crooked seams. Justice in the lens, shattered fake dreams. Dreams about killers, painted heroes in disguise. She burning propaganda with fire in her eyes. No glamour for the guilty, she call it straight. She backs victims, the voice stay away. Stats and receipts, no spin, no clutter. Cold cases whisper, she cuts through the mutter. Truth's her tempo, don't confuse the beat. She's standing for the real while you taking a seat. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time to play. She's glass hard, break the false and save the day. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time to...
Okay, we are back. Just finishing up. Hank Brennan in court. Should we see what Innocence Fraud Watch is referring to? Here we go. Where am I? 350. Yeah. Shortly before he mentions it, take a listen.
They haven't listened to the interviews or read the transcripts. Page 88, line 22. Not the next morning. When Jen was navigating John to the Alberts, she said it's near Ashley's house. Ashley and John had hooked up prior to John and I dating. Similarly, page 92, line 1, totally contrary to what you just heard. Totally. There was a woman who was a mother to kids that were close to John's kids who lived very close to the Alberts. In fact, when Jen was navigating John to the Alberts, when I was driving, she said it near Ashley's house. Ashley and John had hooked up prior to John and I dating.
Look at Peggy O'Keefe smiling. Maybe we're, I don't think this jealousy was real jealousy. I think this was blame jealousy. Blame. But Peggy O'Keefe, it's just so nice to see her smiling in court. Everybody see that? Hank Brennan's doing a great job. I hope he's not going to go down the jealous route, the jealous rage route. Look at Karen Reed's behavior. Jealousy is just feigning jealousy. It's just another way to blame John O'Keefe and get him on the back foot, get him on the defensive, get him under her thumb. Get the conversation away from her behavior. It's you. Keep pointing the finger outward. That is Karen Reed. Let's talk about this plumber, Hank Brennan. Bring in the plumber. It's key. Enough of this Gretchen Voss narrative. Let's bring in the plumber. Man, maybe I need to make a t-shirt, bring in the plumber. Speaking of great t-shirts. In my Teespring account, it's under this video, I think. You'll see it linked. But a lot of them they won't show, or they're showing, like when you make new shirts, they'll show the back. One says Karen Reed Bunny Boiler. Yes. One, convict Karen Reed. Let me see if I can show them. Hold on one second. Let me just go to my own channel. Is my store on here? Oh, here's my store. All right, here's my store. All right. Yeah, they see, like, so when you have new stuff up, there's the Convict Karen Reed shirt. This I bought for myself. The Brennan Lally McLaughlin, I bought it in black. Racerback tee 2025 for the Press Commonwealth team. Who doesn't want that? There's also this one, a favorite. Who doesn't want a bunny boiler in navy, black, and of course Karen Reed's one of her favorite colors, pink. Tried to make as many of them in pink. Here's Convict Karen Reed in black. I really just made them for fun. You can see by the price they're $23.99. They're not particularly marked up. And there's lots of different varieties. So those aren't the only colors you can get them in. Shirts, long sleeves, royal blue, gray, navy even. All right, so that'll give you an idea. I have more ideas for t-shirts if I have the time. Hopefully I will. But during a March 20th, 2025 hearing, motions hearing, Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan referred to a June or July 2023 interview transcript between Gretchen Voss and Karen Reed. Referring to line 22, Hank Brennan recited what Karen Reed had stated to Gretchen Voss. We just heard it. During the hearing, Karen Reed's lawyer, Alan Jackson, stood up and made a Freudian slip during his rebuttal to Hank Brennan's arguments. Alan Jackson also helped strengthen the 2024 testimony of Jennifer McCabe, along with the Commonwealth's case, stating in part the following: the conversation that he just referenced with Jen McCabe was the next day. It was the next morning, not minutes before the collision. So he's saying she had a collision. He's acknowledging that his client had a collision. Let's all listen to that. All the free Karen readers are like, he's just repeating the Commonwealth's theory. Well, you should say that. When he knows his client's guilty as sin, in my opinion. He said collision. Yeah, after the collision. Is that when hey, Alan Jackson, is that when Karen Reed love tapped John O'Keefe's car in the early morning hours? What was that? 5:08 a.m. on the 29th? Is that what you're referring to? Was that the collision? Or was it between 12:30 and 12:32 a.m. in front of 34 Fairview? She collided into something. Car data shows it. Looks like also Hank Brennan is bringing in the temperature of John O'Keefe's phone to show where he was. He's bringing the GPS data. He's bringing in all the car data. This is going to be a devastating case. I'm hoping. They're working their best to get bring in all these experts. They still were trying to bring in last week, if you missed it. The defense is still trying to bring in the ARCA witnesses, which they're allowed to come in, but they would like to mention the federal investigation into the arrest, the investigation into John O'Keefe's murder and the arrest of Karen Reed for corruption. It has ended. No other suspect was arrested. but they want to bring it in to prove that ARCA are still unbiased, even though that we know they were paid $23,925, retained, paid for, colluded with. They still want to bring in ARCA and mention the federal investigation so they can tell the jury that their opinions were unbiased. I mean, if I were Judge Cannoni and then another judge would have thrown them on their butt out of court for that, would have slapped them down so hard and said, are you serious you're going to make this argument? I get if you want to bring in the federal investigation, but you're going to still sit there with a straight face and misrepresent your relationship with ARCA as if not just a couple days ago I was admonishing you for and giving 1,000 euphemisms for lying to the court and saying they were unpaid for, unbiased witnesses, and even putting in filings after it was exposed that they were paid, retained, paid for, and that their testimony was very much a product of a collaborative effort between the defense team and the ARCA witnesses, Rentschler and Wolf. It's outrageous what's going on. Okay.
If anything Mr. Brennan just said was true, he might have an argument. My goodness. It's important to get some of the facts right. You got to get some of them right. The conversation that he just referenced with Jen McCabe was the next day. It was the next morning, not minutes before the collision. He's read the every time he stands up, he says, "I've read the I wasn't there. I read the transcripts." We got to hold him to that burden, Your Honor. You got to get the facts right. That conversation with Jen McCabe was the next morning after John O'Keefe had been found, after he didn't come home.
I'm sorry. I just need to correct.
I'm sorry. I was talking to my client. Oh, correct. I'm not quite done. This was during the time after 5:07, after the SUV leaves. We see One Meadows and Jen McCabe and Kerry Roberts get together, and as they're
Wouldn't it be hilarious if it's like, excuse me, I have to get intimate with my client. Excuse me, I have to. It didn't look like they were going to kiss for a second there. Excuse me, I have to have a romantic moment with my client. Maestro, like a violin player comes out, candlelight, the candle gets lit. I mean, how many bottles of wine or hard liquor have these two shared together?
looking for them. As they're looking for him and searching for him, that's the point at which they have the conversation about being about some other woman, or why he might not have come home, or what her mindset might have been at the time. It's after the fact, well after the fact.
Oh.
What's your plan when a dangerous blackout strikes?
Okay. Trickery used. The next morning, Kerry Roberts, Jennifer McCabe, and Karen Reed had headed to 34 Fairview Road at around 5:53 a.m. under Karen's ruse of pretending to look for John O'Keefe. Kerry drove her car from John's home because Karen kept screaming, "We needed to go to Fairview." Jen McCabe said it was an approximate 10-minute drive, give or take, due to weather conditions and because it was dark and difficult to see. Jennifer sat in the front passenger seat whilst Karen was in the back, pushed up. This is the craziest image here. Can you imagine being in this? Just imagine you're Jennifer or Kerry. Karen is pushed up between Jennifer and Kerry and screaming, "Kerry, Kerry, Jen, and repeating phrases like, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Gary, Jen, could I hit him? Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Jen, Gary. Because the reason she's doing that is to shut off their rational brain and get them into a frightened state where they're more easily controlled. And also, in addition to feigning that she might be crazy, okay? Remember when she said she came back with John O'Keefe's blood on her and she said, did I get my period? She was looking also for maybe possibly get out with some kind of crazy defense or get herself sectioned, which means in a hospital where she doesn't have to answer questions by the police. Jennifer McCabe, but this is all to shut down their rational, calm thinking, calm thinking, clear thinking brain and get them in a fear state where they're acting impulsively. Also, pretty easy to point the finger at someone in a fear state, acting impulsively. They were doing this, they were doing that. Maybe it's Jen McCabe who really did it. She was there that night. Jennifer McCabe testified that Carrie Roberts had told Karen Reed to shut up, sit back, and buckle up and look for John. Karen was apparently saying things like, he didn't come home. Could he be walking? Where is he? And still, while in the back of Carrie Roberts' car en route to 34 Fairview, Karen Reed was questioning whether John O'Keefe could be at certain people's houses. This included Bella's house. Karen Reed had asked out loud whether John O'Keefe could have been with Ashley. So, I'm going to knock everybody over with a feather, but I actually think, now Hank Brennan wasn't wrong with any of his facts. I mean, these are all stories Karen Reed has put out there, but I believe they are taken from people on our side of the fence, like Kate from Masshole Mafia, and Jennifer Goffendaffer has actually put out the jealous thing. She didn't want to go into the home because Brian Higgins was there. And, that's, to more to that, or that there's anything kind of rational about this. She was so jealous, and this was a jealous rage. And she just kind of snapped. She got too jealous and she kind of snapped. I don't know. I'm curious. I don't know. I just don't buy it. To me, Karen Reed, if you've done a lot of true crime cases, and this is what we see from murder defendants, very much like the personality, the entitlement, the cruelty, sadistic nature, the ego. And I don't think it was like she was just so crazy about John that she was worried about him running off with other women, and that's what drove her crazy. I think the accusation of it was useful to her so that he could deny it and walk on eggshells around her, and it just controlled his behavior. It was an easy way to control him. And she never really had to answer for her own behavior. Karen Reed had asked out loud whether John O'Keefe could have been with Ashley. So when I say I'm going to knock you over with a feather, I think that Alec Jackson is closer to being right there than Hank Brennan. Now, do I think Hank Brennan was factually wrong? I think you can't assume that John O'Keefe was playing Jen McCabe's call over a speakerphone. You just don't know that, or over Karen Reed's phone, or that Karen Reed even heard it, or that Karen Reed even cared, or that it even registered with John. O'Keefe. We don't know. But it certainly seems like from his own actions, which is putting in he knew how to get to Bella's mom's house and it was just a couple doors down. I don't know why put it into Waze. Timeline extracts. 12:14, John texted Jennifer McCabe, where to? At 12:14:29, Karen Reed's black Lexus SUV was captured on surveillance camera pulling away from her parking spot on Washington Street. On 12/14:36, Jennifer McCabe called John O'Keefe in response to his where to message instead of texting back because she was driving. Matthew McCabe heard his wife speak to John as Jennifer had the phone on loudspeaker in the car. John O'Keefe called Jennifer McCabe back for further directions. Jennifer had John's call on loudspeaker in both Matthew and McCabe. So by 12, again, it is not known if Karen ever overheard or registered Jennifer McCabe's directions to John O'Keefe. Trooper Guarino stated in his report here at 12:20 and 8 seconds, John O'Keefe's phone searches the address 34 Fairview Road of Waze. 12:23:46, as per John O'Keefe's GPS native location data, Karen Reeve carried out a 3-point turn on Cedar Crest Road. Listen to video clips of Jennifer and Matthew McCabe's testimony here. Okay, so this is Jennifer McCabe.
How do you open your car door or window if you end up in the water? If you have a car with electric windows,
We gotta go through these ads, guys.
Short circuit. This, combined with a fatal design flaw in all recent cars, makes it nearly impossible to escape after landing in the water. This new invention increases your chances of survival to 99%. It was developed by engineer and certified diver Paul Schneider. He discovered a deadly design flaw in all cars built after 2005.
Isn't this odd, though, that they're giving us car
windows
commercials?
are made of a special type of glass that protects passengers during an accident. Moreover, this glass is almost impossible to break with a traditional safety hammer, especially when the car is underwater due to the extra external pressure.
Kennedy,
and the situation only becomes more dire when your car ends.
Skip ad.
This is a secret of the used car market, but many people still don't know it. This groundbreaking car spray will make your car.
All right, we're past it. We made it through, guys. See, can everybody see? Okay. All right.
Any communication you received with that?
I received a text.
Yeah, doesn't that remind you of Ted Kennedy? Like the real stories of Chappaquiddick are just so awful. There's another crime that people have been making apologies for the killer for Chappaquiddick, Ted Kennedy. Oh my. The real facts of that case are so disturbing.
Text from John saying where to.
And with respect to that, did you respond in kind via text, or how did you respond, if at all, to Mr.
I was driving, so I called him.
And when you called him, if you know, was that something that was done through Bluetooth with regard to the car, or?
Yes, it would have been, because it was my phone and I was driving, so I would have had it over the car.
Your phone would have been paired up with your phone?
Yes, I plugged it in when I got it. I always plug my phone in when I get in, if I'm driving.
And with your husband in the car, it's fair to say that he could hear both sides of the conversation as far as you and Mr.
Yes.
And so that initial call that you placed to Mr. O'Keefe, is that done while you're driving?
Yes.
And what, if anything, were you telling him as far as that initial call?
He had asked for he said where to. I gave him the address, and then I believe I just started giving him directions, and I actually think Matt spoke over me and was saying, go this way, go this way. And then I said, yeah, you just go down to Fairview. It's at the bottom.
And so, as far as the directions, do you recall anything specifically about what you told Mr. O'Keefe as far as where the directions were?
Well, he actually called back a second time. And when he called back a second time, I instructed him that it was by a friend's house, one of his niece and my daughter's friend. And I said, oh, it's right, go past Bella's street. It's at the bottom of the hill.
Okay, so go right by Bella's house. Let me see if I can.
Don't buy another pair of glasses until you've seen.
Okay. And this is.
When I got into the vehicle, my wife received
This is Matthew McCabe, Jen McCabe's husband. A little reminder of his testimony.
text from John, and it said, where to? He was looking for the address. I told my wife, we were starting to drive out of the parking lot. I told her, just call him instead of texting him back.
Rather than text while she's driving, you advise her just call him back.
Correct.
And did she call him?
She did.
And with respect to that Bluetooth that we were discussing earlier within the car, this call from your wife Jennifer to John O'Keefe, was that using the Bluetooth technology?
I'm assuming it was. I don't recall, but I knew he was on the phone asking what the address was.
Let me ask you this: could you hear both sides of the conversation?
I could hear him. Yes.
So you heard your wife talking and you heard John talking, correct?
Yes.
And as far as that communication with reference to where to or where to go or the address, describe to the jury sort of what that conversation was.
Conversation was the address, 34 Fairview. And I actually was definitely mumbling stuff from my seat saying, come out, take a right, take a left on Sherman and 34 Fairview. And that was that initial call, was just giving him the address and telling him to Sherman's easiest way.
And so when you say that initial call, was there a subsequent call while you were still en route to 34 Fairview?
Yes, there was a call a few minutes later. Somehow, I don't know why, but somehow they didn't know where the house was. I recall, again, my son.
Also, here's another thought. Just a thought, not a fact, just a thought. Is if they're arguing, and I believe they argued all morning, evening, and night of the 28th until Karen Reed in the early morning hours of the 29th between 12:30 and 12:32 backed into John O'Keefe and clipped him going 24 miles an hour in reverse, her foot 75% down on the gas pedal, basically flooring it in reverse. Clipped him with his car and left him to die there. If they're arguing, doesn't it make more sense if they're arguing all the way over there that Karen Reed wouldn't take in Bella's mom's house or Bella's house? Wouldn't he immediately just go, oh, I know how to get here, blah, blah, blah. But doesn't it make more sense if they're arguing and he's calling Jen, he's calling Matt McCabe, then eventually putting into ways that Karen Reed has done what she did with Carrie and Jen, gotten rid of their rational, calm mind state and put them into a fear state of mind that isn't orderly. So to make your mind disorderly and fearful by so much arguing that he can't find it. Doesn't that make sense? Make so much chaos in the car. That's why Karen Reed's bringing in all these people, acting one way 1 minute, one way the other one. You never know what to expect. Keep the mind in a fear state, easily controlled. If Karen Reed's behavior does not come into this case in a real way, not the fake way that she's presented Oh, the jealous rage, the alcohol, didn't know what I was doing. Karen Reed loves to talk about the alcohol. It gives her an out. Oh, I didn't know what I was doing. I was so drunk. Yet she does admit that she's totally into control. She admits herself that she likes being in control. And I believe the need to control John O'Keefe was paramount. And when he finally said, I'm not going to be controlled anymore, I'm over this, leave, get your stuff and leave. I'm done. I don't know what she was planning on ever getting her stuff. Leave. I'm going in with or without you. See ya. It's over. I can't deal with it anymore. She had to teach him a lesson. No one leaves me. You think you can just leave me? I'll leave you like a piece of trash, injured on the side of the road, in front of the Alberts, in front of your friend's house, in a nor'easter. That's what I think of you. When she's asked it, I mean, the anger is still there. When she's asked about John O'Keefe, whether she loved him, she said, no, we were dating. And when Higgins was brought up in this TV show, ID Discovery, she says, oh, no, well, it's not, I don't know why people get so upset with Higgins. It's not like we were married or had kids or anything. We were just dating. Come on, guys. We were just dating for like 2 years. We were just dating. Just dating. So be careful with these narratives. My feeling is the more narratives that Karen Reed herself puts forward over and over and over again, she's using them because they're useful to her and they're not part of reality as to what happened. They're the reality of what happened. She told that story. It paints a very dark picture of who she is, although we've seen who she is all through it. And this idea that people do things for rational reasons or act rationally. I know people have brought up, well, if she was going home to John O'Keefe's house to sneak in and once again go where she was unwanted and break through any boundaries that he had. Remember when everyone takes off their shoes going into John O'Keefe's house except Karen Reed? I mean, that's the same attitude that she has going into his house uninvited and unasked for. You no longer can tell me where to go. I'm going to violate your space. I'm going to violate your boundaries. You're no longer living or incapacitated. I don't know if she knew he was dead at that point. Seems pretty obviously when she went into his house, quote unquote, searching for him with Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts. But when she went after she clipped him, I don't know what she knew as to how serious injury she caused. But she clearly didn't care because she clearly didn't stop, get out of the car, call 911. She was perfectly okay with leaving him there to die. We know that. And that's all these reasons are a murder 2 charge. If we see some sort of, we can't understand why people kill people. It's not rational. So people have asked why she would make those phone calls. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. If she wanted to cover up her crime. And didn't want to leave evidence. Because at that point, she was just in the full expression. She had to relieve the full expression of her hatred for John at that moment. Then she could go at another time and start to plot the cover up when she got in the cozy quarters of John O'Keefe's house. She could start plotting how to get away with it. And this is very much what she did to Jen McCabe and Matt McCabe, and Carrie Roberts is, or I would say, let me leave Matt McCabe out of it. Very much what she did to Jen McCabe, Carrie Roberts, keeping them in a fear state is what she did to John O'Keefe. Keeping them off balance in a fear state, mixing things up, keeping them confused. Also, when you're confused, you're a lot easier to control. And keeping them out of a quiet, rational mind state. All right. Lackadaisical says psychopath versus sociopath. You know, I've seen people make distinguish between a sociopath and a psychopath. I've also read things where people don't distinguish. I don't find it particularly valuable. Substance abuse, I'm throwing the DSM-5 TR at a wicked woman who meets more diagnosis in that book than her lame attorneys. I certainly think, as all psychopaths are, she's also a narcissist, but I don't see the borderline. I've known borderline personalities. I don't see borderline with her. I don't think she had any real feelings, and I don't think she has the ability to really connect. I know troubled relationships are part of borderline, but I don't think she was a fear of abandonment has to do with this. Kitty's 1993 says, how was she so jealous if she was willing to sleep with Higgins? Good point. And other people, Kitties, we're going to hear about other people. Lackadaisical says, if I could only chat with two new puppies. Oh, I don't know what you mean exactly. Do you have two new puppies? I don't know what you mean. Lackadaisical, let me know in the comments. Explain that comment to me. So that is what I have for today. Guys, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, support my work on Patreon, throw me a Venmo, buy me a coffee. Please hit the thumbs up on your way out. Share this episode. Tell your friends about the podcast. Leave me a comment. I get so much out of your comments. I read them all. And I'll be back Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Have a great night. Oh, no, I'll be even earlier. I'll be back for the hearing in the morning before that. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks for listening.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system a clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, Jen, like John, you were my mom. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit yet. system, my clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, Jen, like John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit yet. John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit yet.